Hello, Outfest. Thank you for joining us after having watched Monsoon, our international centerpiece. I'm Mike Doherty. I'm the Director of Festival Programming with Outfest, and I'm joined by the Director of Monsoon, Hong Kao, and its star, Henry Golding. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Henry.
Hey, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Of course, it's a wonderful film that I know our audience is going to love, so thank you very much for allowing us to screen it in this unusual circumstance for a film festival. But it's going really well so far, so I think everyone's going to love the experience of this. So I want to talk about this wonderful film you made, Hong and Henry. And Hong, I'll start with you. We always start these Q&As at the beginning, so if you could talk a little bit about the inspirations behind the film and the themes you were looking to explore when you set out to create this, and kind of what it turned into.
I think the inspiration is I've always wanted to do a film tug and pull between cultural and national identity. I think it's something that I still carry with me still, and I'm not sure I'll ever find a closure. And I also remember wanting to do a film about the Vietnam War in a way that, because I've grown up on a staple diet of these type of films, that's pretty much been the American dominant perspective. And I guess it was just to kind of amalgamate the two somehow. I don't know how, but I just kind of, through different drafts, Monsoon arrived in this place.
Yeah, and you touched on a couple of threads that I'd like to follow at some point in this Q&A, but you mentioned how you carry this own clash between cultural and national identity with you a lot, and I've read that this film isn't, strictly autobiographical, but I'm wondering what, if anything, from your own life you brought to this script, or is that something you particularly tried to avoid in writing, in bringing it too close to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it is an autobiographical. It isn't autobiographical, but it is. There are many things in it that are very much from a personal experience. But like anything, you have to. I don't know. You have to dramatize it. You have to augment it. You have to reshape it for it to work as a film. I'm not Vietnamese. I'm Cambodian. So a lot of things have kind of changed as well, but I think the heart of it, this sense of returning to a country, a birth country, where you don't have the language, you don't have the memory, that's very much me, and this idea that my parents never told me about my past, and I think for somebody like, there comes a point where I have to draw that line, very similar to Kit, that I feel like if I was in Kit's shoes, I would take those ashes back to London. I wouldn't necessarily leave them in Phnom Penh, as romantic as an idea that is, which I think, typically is a very typical romantic notion, right? And I felt it's probably something I wouldn't probably do.
Yeah, that's very interesting. The kind of romantic ideal behind that. I love what you said there, and I'm going towards Kit. I just wondered what you started out with when you were conceiving of this character, what qualities you wanted him to have, and how Henry matched those qualities, and how Henry came to this project.
Oh God, I mean, from the start, it was always going to be about the right actor to play Kit, and who can get, because what the film is, is an internal journey of Kit, right? Very much an internal journey, and we needed an actor that could externalize that and also give those nuance, right? And we needed, I mean, from the get-go, everybody recognized that we needed somebody that had the caliber to do that. So we searched like far and wide. We searched as far as Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and one day we had a taping in from Henry, and I think like immediately everybody felt like, oh God, there's something rather special here, and we all kind of quietly got quite excited, and at that time we really had no idea, as in we didn't know how big Crazy Rich Asian had become, and a simple favor, but Henry had told us he had been in 2 feature films, and that was comforting in that I felt like he had worked on a film set and knew, I guess, maybe the demands and the kind of how difficult it can be. So, and then we really put Henry through the rigor, really. Right, we did a lot of taping, and then eventually I went out to LA and met Henry, and we did a day just working on a couple of scenes, a handful of scenes. And what really sold it was just when Henry taps into something that it felt very honest, you know. It didn't feel mannered, and it didn't feel arched, and that's what really sold it to me, because he was able to tap something. You know, I'm sure Henry can tell you more because he has that understanding between this duality. But when it came from a place, it was really honest and beautiful to watch. So.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me that like this film was casting before Crazy Rich Asians and A Simple Favor came out, which are obviously two very much bigger studio extroverted pictures. And Henry, I'm just wondering like where you were at the time in your career. Where was it a big change to come to a movie like this, which is obviously much more stripped down in terms of budget, in terms of, you know, pizzazz, in terms of the production?
Yeah, it was.
Is that an appealing challenge as an actor?
It was an interesting sort of adventure, really, because it kind of brought me back to my broadcast days of travel shows around Southeast Asia. So it wasn't at all jarring in any way. It was, you know, it was nice having the Crazy Rich Asians and Simple Favor budget, but it's unnecessary in some ways, especially if the heart of your story lies within the city itself. You know, my green room or my trailer was a plastic seat by the roadside with some food on top of it, and we were absolutely fine with that. That's being in Vietnam, and I treasured the moments. Actually, you know, there's something beautiful in simplifying anything and everything, just boiling it down to its kind of limit. And with Vietnam, it was always throwing us some surprises. So we had an amazing time, and it was just a very interesting period of my life, because I had done these two movies, but I had no work to show for it, in a sense. So proving that I was able to, you know, stand up to, say, Parker or any of our other amazing cast, it was a sort of a fair playing field, really. And so Hong really did put me through, you know, the grinder with the auditions and things, and it was never 100%. It was never a certain thing, but I really wanted this character because I felt so kind of entwined with his story in some respects.
I'm interested to know, could you be a little more specific about what the grinder is in terms of this audition? Like what is putting you through the grinder in this context?
I mean, originally it was, I think I had met with a casting director in London when I was over there, just after Simple Favor. And I think it was Amy Hubbard.
Yeah.
Is that right? And she told me about the film originally, and then I got the request of an audition tape, and so I had to self tape in Singapore with my wife, which is always amazing fun, as it always is with partners and auditioning. But it was a very emotional scene. I think it's one of the sort of penultimate scenes with Parker and with Lewis and Kit, and it felt so easy to just unlock the emotional sort of connection with the words that I was saying, and it's rare. Sometimes that doesn't come with the material, but with this character in specific, it felt so easy. It felt like as if I was already living in his shoes, and I think it's that duality. It's the uncertainty of cultural citizenship. I've had that myself, being sort of half Malaysian, growing up in the UK, growing up in an expat community, having moved over from when I was 8 from Malaysia, never quite feeling kind of accepted in the UK, moving back when I was like 22 to Malaysia, which is kind of the similar journey to Kit, not being able to speak the language, being sort of overwhelmed by, at this time, Kuala Lumpur and its kind of its madness of that Asian kind of street scene. So I felt this affinity towards Kit, and kind of understood he had a very specific sort of journey for himself, which was to find the resting place for his parents' ashes. But at the same time, it was really to uncover what he had been yearning for most of his life, and that's an understanding of who he is. So yeah, it was a crazy time, but it was an invaluable sort of adventure and experience in filmmaking, especially with somebody like Hong, who has this subtleness to him and this absolutely amazing way of bringing out the inner sort of feelings of what it is to be sitting in this scene. And I think it's quite plain to see in the movie that we relish in those moments where it is about being overwhelmed by these senses that Vietnam plays as a character, and for that to be reflected through Kit.
Again, you've touched on a couple things I want to talk about, but let's go to Vietnam as a character first, and kind of the experience of shooting in Vietnam. Hong, I know you had a bit of childhood experience there. I'm just wondering how familiar you were with the country, going back in to film this film, and what that experience was like, just in production.
Yeah, I mean, the Vietnam I remember is no longer, I left in 1983, and that was a time when it was I think it was still a very kind of maybe third world country then. But now the Vietnam now is just thriving, and it's this metropolis, and it's ambitious, and it's, it's modern. And the filming in Vietnam was I mean, it was amazing. On the one hand, I think, the country welcomed us, and they worked incredibly hard, and it gave our film, it made our film look a lot more expensive than it actually was, I think. Because we just couldn't, we really literally plunge our actors into those moments. And so I think also, as Henry touched upon earlier, I think it was tough. I think that there were things like loss in translation, and there were just different ways of working that we were still grappling with as well. And so it's still, I mean, it's amazing. I think I just remember there was some moment. I mean, Henry was like, he really understood the food in Vietnam. So I remember these days when he was just eating all of this stuff, and even I was quite scared of eating some of them.
I think there was one point, because it was quite literally monsoon when we were filming, but we were really lucky with the actual days. There were maybe 2 or 3 days where we got really rained on, and the only thing to do is to go out with one of our assistants who would take me around and just grab some hot food. And there's nothing like it. It's sort of hot street food on a rainy afternoon in Vietnam. But one in particular was I mean, in Philippines they call it balut. I'm not sure what they call it in Vietnamese, but it's the fetal egg, chicken egg. It's where the chicken egg has sort of developed enough that there's a chicken inside it, but it's not fully developed. But then they cook it in its own juices, and so you eat this chicken soup like egg. And I could not for the life of me convince Hong to. I think maybe, did you try it?
I think I tried a herb. I think I was quite afraid. Yeah. I was quite scared.
But when you crack it open, there is a fetus, like a chicken fetus inside it. So, but it's a local delicacy. It's absolutely delicious, but you got to be very adventurous for it.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought you had more to expound on that point, but yeah, I'm just wondering because obviously this doesn't seem like the kind of production where you have staff controlling the traffic in the streets and like hiring extras to come in. It feels very much like you're on the streets, kind of capturing part reality. And I'm just wondering if both for Kit, if that gives something to your performance in any special way, and for Hong, if there's anything you captured in those moments by happenstance that is in the movie that you particularly love. So either one of you can answer first.
I mean, for me personally, it was because Kit has no familiarity with what's happening around him, so everything is kind of almost alien. So it added to that experience. I mean, even something so normal as foot traffic or these scooter traffics. As soon as you step off the plane in Ho Chi Minh City and walk around the city, you are just enveloped by this assault on the senses, and there is danger literally everywhere. And that's something that seeps into the character almost right at the beginning. But you see his progression, and you see his comfort level just slowly sort of easing him into this life. And by the end of the movie, Kit's kind of crossing the road, not even looking around, and it's almost he's let Vietnam come to him rather than the opposite, where he was searching sort of for this life. He's gone through this amazing journey of understanding, and it's almost relinquishing control and allowing it to kind of wave over him in a way.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, because it's a communist regime, we have to be, it was very bureaucratic in that we have to tell them where we're filming and where we're pointing the camera. And so I think there wasn't anything that was, that kind of happened. Not that I can recall, but I think what was really, I think the most interesting thing was putting Henry into those real elements. So, the assault of the traffic, the assault of the noise, and we felt we had to embrace all of those characteristics and make it be part of the film, a personality of the film, so to speak. And so it was just, I think it was just, it felt, I don't know, it made it feel very authentic, just because we weren't trying to control the air. We couldn't close down roads and like the scene with Henry walking through the market. We couldn't bring 200 extras and that type of thing. So
we've talked a bit about the like interior aspect of this film and how it operates on a very quiet register, on a very introspective level, and those moments speak loudly. But I'm just wondering, to me it feels like a daunting challenge to know when you've got it, like when that those interior moments are there and they're cinematic and they're going in the final film. And I'm just wondering, Hong, how your philosophy towards that, or your approach towards that.
That's a very good question. I don't know. I mean, I think for me it's always about the performance, right? I think when Henry gets it right, I feel like that's when we shout cut, and that's when it was just. I think I remember as we progressed, I could see Henry was just, he really got under the skin of Kit, and he was just, at times I just felt he knew the scene so well, that it hardly needed any more direction. And I think it was just really beautiful to watch. And I was very aware that the interior and exteriors and the quietness and the cacophony outside, those were all kind of, I guess I was very aware what each scene needed to do. Sorry, I'm not sure I've answered the question.
It was a general question, so understood. But another element I want to touch on. So now, this being Outfest this year, we have over 160 features and shorts of beautiful queer art, and something that I'm seeing that's really encouraging is in these stories. You have a leading character who is gay, and in past years, that would have to be, a plot element that creates some kind of tension or some kind of, controversy with another character. But in this, it's just a fact of his life. And it seems like it's such a quiet thing, but it seems like such a revolutionary thing for like a leading man to be gay and not have it be like the essential plot element. And that's not like, I'm not saying like queerness should not be the essential plot element. And I think it is very strong in this film, but it's also like a very relaxed approach to it. And I just wanted to know, both of you, from like how you approached that element of the film.
I mean, thank you for saying that. That was really important to me. I felt for Kit's character and for Lewis's character, I didn't want them to have any baggage of their sexuality. I want that to be a that they were entirely comfortable in their skin. That what they were struggling to get a grip on was the cultural and national identity. That I felt their sexual identity was absolutely fine, and they were very comfortable. And I wanted that kiss in that nightclub at the end, which is let's say a straight nightclub, for it to be a wholehearted kiss. It's nice you picked that point. I felt I wanted the film to have a queer sensibility, but at the same time, I didn't want that to be a baggage that they carry. I just felt it was time. Not that I think other films have done this before, but I felt it wasn't necessary to talk about that, because the film isn't about that. The film is about a struggle for a sense of kind of cultural identity more than anything.
I think that was one of the reasons which drew me to the script. I've always felt that it's necessary to have authenticity in casting, and I think one of the topics that obviously sort of came up was a straight man playing a gay role, and the intricacies which come with that. And for me to feel as though I was deserved of the role, I think, was the fact that the story wasn't hinged on his queerness or him being gay. It was the fact that it was this journey for him as a human. It kind of transcended that, and we've all got this yearning of understanding where we are from. And so for me, I think it was such a beautiful thing to have these sparks of kind of love with Lewis, but not have it being the kind of the driving force for Kit, and it not taking the pilot seat. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of films, sometimes the romance becomes the main event, when this in Monsoon it doesn't at all. But you see Kit allow himself to fall in love through his journey. In the beginning, I think he's so preoccupied with this mission that he meets. There's like this kindling of brush fire and this how do you say, this physical kind of attraction, but then slow at one with himself and at ease with himself. I think you flow into that kind of that love story. So yeah, I don't know if that answers, but
it's the thing is, I think that they feel like very small choices to not talk about his sexuality, but I think, like you said, Mike, they're very intentional choices. And I guess, not to sound haughty or blowing my own trumpet, but I don't know how to articulate, but I guess the idea not to have their sexuality as a baggage is a really intentional thing, and at the same time, I want it to be a celebrated thing, if you see what I mean, even though it feels such a...
Absolutely. Like, something I love about the final scene is very much that it feels like the entirety of the themes of this film and the choices that you made are like coming together beautifully in that final scene, where it's a small moment of triumph for them, and like the music is just so elevating and uplifting, and it feels very, very celebratory of their relationship with each other.
And there's a sense of hope for them, whatever that may be. Yeah.
Since he can't join, and we've kind of made a reference to him, I did want to give a shout out to Parker Sawyer's performance in this film, and if you want to, Hong, talk a little bit about what brought him to the film and what he brought to the role.
Oh, Parker was lovely, stunning, beautiful actor, and it was. I mean, everything had to be built around Kit, and once we found our actor for Kit, we then had to start building the other components around it, and it just felt. I mean, they had a lovely chemistry. And professional. I don't know. I don't know how actors do this stuff, but when you put them two in a room together and you put them in a scene, and it's really, it's really just it's a director's dream, really.
Yeah, it's always the difficulty I have asking actors questions, because I know it's your process, it's your job to make it happen like that. But I mean, Henry, is there anything in particular about working with Parker that was memorable for you?
I mean, the work was seamless. It just like Hong sort of explained, like we had such amazing chemistry from the get-go, and we had only really met when we got to Vietnam. And I think myself and Hong were out there like 3 weeks before for pre-production, and then Parker sort of joined us a little bit later. But I remember we took, I think myself and Parker were in the same hotel, and we would go on these sort of walks around the town just to get to know each other and kind of break the ice and understand our characters. But it was just amazing to be able to kind of roam around with this handsome 6'3" black man in Vietnam. Like it was literally like everybody had eyes for Parker. I was just like kind of jealous in a weird way. And he's got such a great presence, old Parker. And yeah, it was. I think it was interesting. There was a couple sort of really steamy scenes where you almost hope that your partner is as in it as you are. And I think there was one time that I made everybody some gin and tonics on set, just to sort of like get everybody kind of, just on the same kind of wavelength. And it was such a memorable production. It's weird. It's almost like looking back on simpler times in a strange way, and just grinning and just enjoying and loving those moments. But no, Parker was fantastic. We had an amazing cast. We had David Tran, Molly was phenomenal. Everybody brought their own special sort of touch to their characters.
Yeah, and Parker's dad fought in the war as well, so he was very interesting, And I feel like a lot of our main actors have a kind of understanding of some of the themes and motif in the film. So yeah.
We're just about out of time, but I guess to close up, I mean, I know obviously Monsoon is playing Outfest at a very odd time for film festivals and an odd time for distribution as well. But I know Strand Releasing has picked up the film to release, and just wondering, Hong, if you could tell us a little bit about what the future holds for this film.
Oh God, I mean, it is a strange time, right? I don't know. I mean, it's amazing. Strand's picking up and is having a release, and I think California maybe has gone into a second lockdown, so I don't know what the situation is. It'd probably be a part cinema, part online release. And, and it's a shame. I mean, we really made this film to be cinematic, and because we weren't under the pressure to do anything other than that. But we are going through strange times, and it's completely understandable. So, hopefully, the industry will pull through and get through this.
I have no doubt. Well, I know, I mean, we're filming this, obviously people are watching this after they watch the film, but right now we're filming it before it's gone on the platform, and I can already tell from the web traffic that people are really excited to see it. So I hope you at home enjoyed watching, and I want to thank Hong and Henry for joining us for this Q&A. Thank you so much for the work and for sharing your time.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
And you at Outfest continue to enjoy our lineup, and we'll see you soon.